What's going on, Ambitious Vet? Welcome to the Ambitious Vet Show. I'm your host, Chris Hoffman. I'm a Marine Corps veteran who got out as a junior enlisted guy in 2012, went through 5 jobs in 5 different industries in just 5 years. That was before I began to discover that the immediate transition education expires when you desire more than just your basic needs being met. What do I mean by basic needs? Well, landing that first job that actually pays your post-military bills, healthcare, and shelter. But that's why this show exists, to dive into the trenches with today's top subject matter experts, share inspiring transition stories, and provide master classes to equip you with the realistic perspective on what it takes to not only survive, but thrive in the trenches of everyday life post-military. Hey, Ambitious Vet. I think in this episode, what I want to promote is you to go to ambitiousvetnetwork.com and subscribe to our newsletter. There, you're going to gain access to a Ambitious Vet goal-setting framework. You know, it's one way to get out of the military, have huge ambitions, right? But not be flat on your human capital gaps. And that is time and time again the problem that I see with a lot of ambitious vets that listen to the show, funnel into our Facebook group and inside of our platform, is people are overly ambitious. They set these SMART goals, which, guess what, is only the first step towards thinking it all the way through so it's realistic and feasible, right? How do you make it feasible and realistic and self-aware, quite frankly, into your human capital gaps? It's this goal-setting framework that I designed, I think back in 2019. You get a free PDF version. The only price is your name and your email address. Plus, after you get that, you're going to get a bi-weekly newsletter that's going to give you the content, resources, and opportunities to continue to fuel your growth as an ambitious vet post-military. So again, go check out ambitiousvetnetwork.com. There's going to be a pop-up that says subscribe now to get your free copy of the Ambitious Vet Goal Setting Framework. Make sure you get that done and think all the way through your goals and be self-aware in your human capital gaps. And I promise you, 2023 and beyond could look totally different for you.
It's time to get into the trenches, dig into your purpose, and fire up your life's fulfillment. The Ambitious Vet Podcast starts now.
What's going on, Ambitious Vet? We are right back inside the trenches this week with Dr. PJ Maykish. PJ serves the Special Competitive Studies Project as a senior advisor. Prior to SCSP, PJ was the director of technology competition at the National Security Council. He directed classified research for the National Security Commission on Artificial Intelligence from 2019 to 2021. In the strategy office for the Secretary of Defense, PJ developed third offset technology solutions for DoD deterrence credibility issues from 2015 to 2017. He was promoted early to lieutenant colonel and colonel ranks within 24 years of leadership, with 24 years leadership experience in military operations, and including Commander of U.S. Central Command's Combined Air Operations Center from 2017 to 2019. Ambitious vet. We haven't had a lot of, national security leaders. I know the last one was Chris Taylor, but it's always an honor whenever we have someone that's achieved such a high commissioned officer rank in the military, led some combat operations from a high level, and also serving at a very high level post-military. So it's an honor for me to just introduce PJ Maykish. PJ, are you there?
Chris, thank you so much for making time to do this. I really appreciate the intro. Too kind. And I look forward to being with you and connecting with everybody on your podcast right now.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And please forgive, sometimes this Marine can spit out the acronyms from the military. Sometimes it's been 12 plus years and it's hard to keep up with them. So, but
all good.
Solid experience, solid background. Love it. Please feel free to fill the gaps inside of that. Please just fill the gaps both personally and professionally in your background.
Yeah, well, Chris, first of all, thank you so much for having me today, and just everybody who's tuning in right now. I look forward to making this time count, and hopefully it fulfills the mission of your whole podcast. As I tuned into your episodes and hearing that you're just about helping people thrive and helping vets where they are and where they're going. So I just want to say thanks. I'm happy to journey with you on that. And yeah, no, that was the basic intro. I felt like I should be in the military when I was young. I read a history of Vietnam when I was 14, starting the Canada House history of Vietnam. I felt called to it. My mother had different views on that. So she said, you go knock out your degrees before you do that. My father was a Marine. He didn't finish high school, but she said, you go get your degrees. So I did go get 2 of those. And then after that, I was getting too old. So it was now or never. I came in. And I think what I learned in that journey is that your life happens in chapters. You may not always think about them in chapters, but they unfold in chapters. And so that was the beginning of my military journey, which lasted 24 years, 24 amazing years, served with so many great Americans and allies and partners, all the way up to the operational level of war during the ISIS war from 17 and 19. So it was a total privilege. An honor, but yeah, you've got it right. I was basically an operator doing mission control for the Air Force. I was Ranger qualified, which allowed me to serve in other capacities, to include being support to JSOC for a period of my life. And when I wasn't doing operations, I was getting involved in tech programs. And so I had fun either developing or employing and testing different technology programs going back to 98. And then finally, as you read at the end there, where my military journey went was I came in to meet an incredible group of people in the Pentagon, namely our director here at Special Competitive Studies Project. His name is Ili Bayraktari. He and his brother Ilber are Albanian Americans, and their whole family could have been ethnically cleansed in Kosovo in 99. When they were not a part of the ones that lost their lives, they came back to the United States to pay back, which they're still doing to this day. So when I met him, then I just started doing the next coolest thing with him, which was after the ISIS war was the AI Commission. And I was the director of research there for rival intense capabilities and our strategies to counter those. And then after that, I had that sprint at the White House, which he was also helpful for lining up. And then after that, he said, hey, we're going to try to do a project that replicates what happened in the 50s. Are you on board for that? And that's the Special Competitive Studies Project where we are today. So yeah, after I did ops and tech, basically then I started doing the next coolest strategy thing I could do, which is what led to the end of that part you read.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. And it's Ranger qualified and then falling into tech. Where did you find love in technology? Where did you find just that passion for that? Were you kind of a foresight, kind of seeing where trends were going, or kind of what did that look like? How did you fall in love with that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, when I was a kid, where they say, what do you want to be when you grow up? I literally had like a chem lab when I was 10, so I was a STEM kid. I was into, appreciating how the world works. I still do. I think there's so much of it we don't understand, and it never ends, So I was a STEM kid, went to a program where they take the 2 kids from each state called National Government School for Science. And so I met the rest of America all in one place, 100 students before they were about to go. So I was into it when I was a kid, but what I felt really led to was the martial life. And so it became a natural pairing of how does tech create power for military advantage? At the end of the day, I believe, like a lot of theorists do, that, warfare is a human affair, and you try to win with whatever you have. There's no excuses. You never claim lack of tech for victory or defeat. But at the same time, a wise nation will try to have as much power and edge as it can. So I just, wherever I could get involved in developing that edge, I was all in, and it was fun to do.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you doing that, because I feel like that is such a high priority in today's world. And just doing, what I hear in that, even from a enlisted Marines perspective over here, is doing a lot with a little, figuring out how to do a lot with a little, be efficient and all that good stuff. So,
Exactly.
PJ, I really appreciate you just sending ahead of time some bullet points around what you think would best resonate with an ambitious vet that's listening to this right now? It sounds like you've been listening to the episodes and stuff like that. Really appreciate that, because you have a lot going on in life, and for you to just make the time to tune in and kind of get the culture of the podcast, I just want you to know I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
But one of the topics that you kind of teed up, which I love, and I think the ambitious vet listening to this will love as well, is we all want to thrive as ambitious vets is getting out of the uniform, right? And there's fundamentals towards building up to thriving. And I think a lot of us, when we get out, we feel like we're supposed to thrive immediately. And not, sometimes it happens. Sometimes we thrive for a season of life and then we crash and burn until the next season of finding thriving. But, there was a topic that you teed up, which was 4 fundamentals to live strong. What would be those 4 fundamentals?
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. I think, first of all, that to any vet that's listening right now, whether you're in active duty, reserve, guard, any status, or transitioned and in different chapters of your life in the vet journey, I think you come to life, first of all, with a bunch of fundamentals that are an advantage, right? I think being in the military teaches you some basic things like planning, execution, leading, toughness. There's just a degree of everybody who comes out as a vet is highly filtered. You made it through basic, you made it through your first unit. In many cases, you made it through combat. If you're a vet of the 9/11 era, you saw a battle probably at some level, and it's a highly filtering experience. So it builds toughness. And then at the same time, there's a standard you get held to in the military. And I think when you come out of that vet experience with basic abilities to do things, you have that more than the average bear that's roaming around out there. You have planning skills, you can execute. And at every level, it's a total rankless and serviceless thing. I have seen the services train the very first entry of a non-commissioned officer to lead, whether it's a squad or an element. And that just doesn't happen in every walk of life. And so that's a huge benefit that every vet just takes into this next thing that I would say, which is you bring that out into your post-vet life, all those basic skills that are, again, an advantage, I would say, of just living the life you lived and having those chapters under your belt. But on one hand, you are being Chris, but you're also becoming Chris. And so I think what I'd like to focus these comments on is how do we become more of who we are after we leave and just stay really, really strong. So the way that it started coming to all of us in the 9/11 era was that war impacts the mind. And we started going through formal structures and realizing that people experience combat and wars in highly different ways. You could walk the Korengal. You could have dropped a daisy cutter in the opening battle of Tora Bora in 91 and seen something that looked like a mushroom cloud and wanted to be sure you didn't have a nuke on board. There's just lots of different ways people experience battle. An MQ-9 pilot and driver out in the Nevada ranges experiences battle, sees people go away, and experiences it completely different than at the end of a 223. So what I think we learned in the 9/11 era is that we needed to be intentional about how people crush life and how they get strong, no matter what they go through. And what was released, and if anybody's listening, maybe you've seen this, but what got released when I was in 05 Command was this idea that your life is 4 pillars. You are physically Chris, you are mentally Chris, there's social Chris, all of your relationship in your life, which you've mentioned really clearly on your podcast as being a father, a son, a neighbor, a friend, a brother, a warrior, right? That's your social life. And then there's your spiritual life, the core of you that makes you you. That even if someone cuts you in half, they're never going to get at that part that makes you you. It's the fingerprint at the core of you that, you might call the phenomenology of the spirit, what makes you you. So there's the physical you, mental, social, and spiritual. And at no point is anybody perfect in all 4 of those. But if you start getting shaky in 2 or 3 of those or all 4, then the house starts rocking. And so the basic pillars of how to thrive and stay strong, I think I've got so many good experiences of seeing people get that and then devote themselves to start becoming more Chris, more PJ, more anyone who's listening, right? Because you're not done yet becoming who you are. And so you just have to focus in some sense on the fundamentals. And you think to yourself, okay, what's the fundamental way that I improve myself physically? What's the fundamental way I do that mentally? How do I make sure I'm right in all the relationships I can control? And what do I do to make myself more spiritually, so I'm more for other people besides myself? So, I just lay that out there, as I think that is the core to me of getting stronger. It's getting stronger in those ways. And how does that hit you? I mean, did you see those pillars at all in your journey? I'm not sure if you got out before they hit the force or.
Oh man. It's like audio medicine, which you're throwing over here with me, but I appreciate you kind of mapping out the wheel of life is kind of how I put it. But every year, me and my wife kind of sit down. We just did this like 2 weeks ago, and I'm just sharing how it landed to me and how I'm interpreting what you're saying.
Yeah, you bet.
But I mean, we sat down, did family planning like 3 weeks ago at a co-working spot, and we just always do this wheel of life. How are we doing as a family or a married couple, and like different areas of life, like you just mapped out, and we score ourselves from a 0 to 10, asking ourselves different questions. It's always, it's always, we are usually always aligned with the weakest area of whatever it may be, finances, spiritual, relationships, whatever. And then from there, it's like, game time. How do we work as a team, a force multiplier effect to improve in that area? But, yeah, I mean, how it lands to me is, if we're not focusing quantumly on all those different areas, we may not be fundamentally able to achieve the results that we want to produce in life, or become the person, that we desire to be, to your point. Right. So, yeah, that's kind of how it landed to me.
Yeah. I mean, I had a friend, one of the best people I ever served with, Mason Dula, served with him at the operational level of war during the ISIS campaign for a year. He and I were together. I was there for 2. Mm-hmm. And one of the things he said to me that he was really good at was, he said, your battle rhythm, your daily, weekly battle rhythm is your friend. Because in essence, when you set that battle rhythm, like the things you do each day to be good physically, the things you do each day to grow your mind and go down the line, each thing you do each day to crush life for your family, that's your battle rhythm. And he said, like, life is going to test that. It's going to, you're going to grow in more responsibilities. Imagine the president of the United States. He's a human, so he has these same pillars, right? So presidents develop battle rhythms to maintain themselves in the midst of the tests and the chaos. So something he said that really stuck with me is the battle rhythm is your friend. And so I think each one of us does, when we're about getting stronger, is just set that battle rhythm. And it doesn't have to be a major stride. It just has to be the next right thing to do physically, so that you're doing that every day. One thing I used to ask people right away, and it would sort of get them there to want to do something, is, are you at your fighting weight? And for some reason, that phrase, when you say, are you at your fighting weight, usually people know exactly what that number is. And it doesn't matter if you're a guy or a girl, your fighting weight, especially if you're in the military. So
I like that question.
Yeah. So, hey, right now I'm slightly off my fighting weight and I want to get there. So I'm going to do something to get there. Right. And then same mentally, right? I think how you grow your mind and whatever you love learning, and how, like, you doing this, you taking this from a Facebook chat to something that's reaching and networking vets, all of us. I mean, we wouldn't have met without you, right? And you wouldn't have connected all these other people that are connecting together. So, I mean, you think about that, you grew yourself, you loved what you were doing. In addition to that thing that came from Mason, that the battle rhythm is your friend, I've thought a lot about how vets get right in the mental pillar. And of course, famously, this is a huge field and a science of taking care of everybody mentally who's been dented, and has got, nobody goes through really combat without some scars. And I think of some people, I had a first sergeant named Bruce Harrison, who was a guard at Buka he was there for 12 months. So there were 4 NCOs that were running 4 cell blocks. And in his cell block was al-Baghdadi, the now deceased leader of the Islamic State. Wow. And he was with him for 12 months. And at the end of 12 months, powers that be came to Bruce and said, I apologize, but your replacement's not here. You're going to have to stay for an extra 3 months. And so he was in that for for 15 months. So that left a dent, and he figured out how do I get around that. There's two other vets that I think have really cool mental pillar stories for me that I just want to share. One is there's a gentleman who was in the Air Force for 4 years. His name's Steve Wimpetrin, and his mental thing is golf, and he now can shoot a 66 on a good day. He can get out there and shoot a 66. But his post-vet life was to run a golf school. It was a passion of his. And for him, golf is mental, like one of the most mental games someone can play. If the shot happens in your mind before it ever happens on the links, right? It's a very mental thing. And so he talks about like the mental ability to master golf. And he, of course, went through a lot of things that he needed to navigate, and did so with toughness. But there was somebody in his school that was in Iraq, Baghdad, downtown at the age of 59, if I've done my math right. He was a long tab Green Beret, for those who know the family business, special forces in the Army. And he served in Vietnam, saw a lot of battle there, served for 30 some odd years, and was in Operation Iraqi Freedom, pushing into Baghdad. And the only reason I know this is after we built trust together, he has a really nice character building scar right here on the front quarter of his head. And I just asked him one day, how'd you get that? He goes, I don't know. It happened in Baghdad. So he and I started talking about like, how did you navigate mentally all the battle you saw? And he said, I learned something when I came out of Vietnam. I was in a group of people that were navigating things they saw in battle. And I learned one simple thing. You don't get over your scars. You don't get over your mental barriers. You get around them. And he said, for the rest of my life, what I've been doing is getting around them. And he gets around them just fine. It's just the thing that clicked for him mentally to make him stronger was, I'm never going to get over what I saw, what happened to me, what happened to a friend. I'm never going to get over that. I'm going to get around it. And that, to me, I had never heard anyone say that before or since, but there's somebody in his mental pillar who found what he needed to get strong.
No, I appreciate you sharing that. Getting over scars, finding your battle rhythm, and accepting, the dents, which could be translated as scars. One thing that popped up to my head whenever you were talking about that, PJ, was, how self-acceptance is so important, right? I can't tell you how many times we have veterans inside of our Facebook group or inside of our platform talking about, how do I just learn how to find inner peace in who I am? How do I get around these scars, but also identify the scars, accept them so I can move around them? And it's just like, man, it's some heavy stuff. So I appreciate you. I appreciate you sharing that as far as like getting over those scars. It could be physical, it could be emotionally, mentally, whatever it may be. How do you just identify it and accept it and process it, ambitious vet, so you can notice it when it pops up, and be like, okay, yeah, that's a tick. That's something popping up from something in the past. Let's let go of that right now and figure out what I want to do next. So I love what you shared there.
No, absolutely. I think another way to think about this too is the way these 4 pillars work is they're your fundamentals, right? About who you are and who you're becoming. And again, nobody's perfect. So for instance, there may be someone that's still looking for that thing that's going to help them get strong in their mental pillar, but they can still stay strong in their physical, right? So that you got some part that's staying strong. You can still stay strong in the spiritual. If there's relationships that are, someone is working through or finding the key to those, to be the next best version of themselves to other people, you can stay strong in one of the two, even though you haven't found the key in that one. And so when I think about that, and when I think about just doing the next right thing in each pillar, I think it comes back to what you're saying about the self-acceptance, is that as you go through your journey, vet or not, but particularly for vets, your worth to other people or your value is almost like a stock price on the market. It's going to go up and down. Your worth to other people is never quite the same. But if you focus on the fundamentals, you always drift up. And that's one thing I think about, is just, you're not going to be perfect every day. Your performance may drift one day, and your perceived value on the stock market of your firm, that is Chris Hoffman Incorporated, it may not be the same every day. And it may not even be the same every day in your closest relationships. But if we focus on the fundamentals of the firm, if you will, are tracking upward, and so are you. And that's how a day stacks on a day, a week on a week, a month on a year, until it's a life.
Yeah, I'm just letting that one sink in for myself.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I mean, like I
Oh.
say, I think to me, it's one of the things that's really freeing about focusing on the fundamentals and getting strong and just doing the things that you need to do, small or great, to just make those strengthen those pillars. Because at the end of the day, like I said, your worth to others will go up and down. One day you might be the best thing since sliced bread. The next day someone's ready to sell you. And that's the world, right? But at the end of the day, if you just focus on the fundamentals and they are trending up, you will rise with it always. It's just a simple way to know you're going to get stronger.
Yeah, no, I love all of it. And just the thing that comes up for me is even being 12 years out of the Marine Corps, and just some of the discussions we have in our fire team calls and our platform on a biweekly basis is like how the fundamentals, yes, but also how I interpret that is like the fundamentals could be your battle rhythm, how to stay consistent habits and routines week after week.
Exactly.
But when you look at our militant demeanor, especially someone for yourself that served over 24 years, you really got the military DNA ingrained in you. I only served for 4. So you really got it ingrained in you, right? So I mean, how do we overcome that constant criticism from people that have not served in the uniform, man? Those that, men that want to, or women that are just threatened by us. That's a lot of the stuff I'm hearing inside the platform. And this may be going off topic, but it may or may not be, because we want to stay strong in who we are and what made us leaders in the military, even outside of it. And I think sometimes our battle rhythms that we try to stay consistent with that had us win in the military, can be misunderstood post military. And it can really start diminishing, our mental health, our emotional health, and all that stuff. So what are some insights around this topic of staying strong, leveraging these 4 pillars that could help us self-accept our battle rhythm, even though it may be too intense, too militant for our civilian counterparts?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's really educational for me personally to know that that's the kind of thing that you're seeing too in people who are transitioning and the things they're going through. I don't know anybody that didn't make some kind of transition mentally when they got out, right? I mean, in your case, you put on the uniform 4 years of your life. I know, an incredible general officer I had a chance to serve with, Jeff Harrigian, just got out at 4-star. And I mean, right now he is not putting the uniform on after decades. Right. So everybody's got a transition to make, everybody. Right. And it's helpful to know with a podcast like this, we're all making it together. Right. So this is another great thing that you're doing when you do this. But the way I would summarize in some sense those transitions and how everybody comes across, and again, this might apply to more than just vets, but I think when you go into the arena of whatever you're doing, whatever your arena is, you've got your work and your ways, and they're not the same, right? So you're focusing on your work, but your ways need to adjust to have better ways and come across better, or communicate right verbally anyways better, or to pull it back and knowing that not everybody's going to act like a team acts at JSOC. So you need to change your ways, right? It's not really for other people to change their ways to you, right? You've got to, if you love and care about people, you got to think about your ways, and you got to adjust them and grow them, because you're thinking about other people. And so that is definitely something that I think everybody makes an adjustment. I sent a really good protege of mine who's still actively serving, Keith McGuire. He's in Colonel Command right now. And, he went and served support at JSOC. And I just distinctly remember he and I having a talk when he left that, look, the world is not going to be like JSOC. Unfortunately, it's not all going to operate like that. So, right. You're going to experience teams in different ways, but you can make everybody a better team everywhere you go. Right. And so as your expectations of people are reasonable, you change your ways. So I think in some sense, all of us have got to adapt our ways. And I do think that comes back to the pillars, right? I think if you are, for example, in your spiritual pillar, if you are about other people more and more, to the degree that we do that more and more, just like we're trained in Ranger School, To the degree you do that more and more, and you really are about other people, your ways will change naturally because you're trying to meet people wherever they are, you know? So I think your work and your ways are like never a done deal. You're always improving them, adapting them. And there's nobody, not one of us, that didn't have some adjustments to make as we turn the page on chapters, you know? And that's a part of the book we're writing, each one of us, the life we're living. And we got one to live, and we're never looking back. We're never going to do it again. And so I think the great thing is to be able to do the next right thing. This is where it comes back to the pillars is, how am I going to finish this book the right way? It's got to be that I'm strong in those 4 ways. It's hard for me personally to imagine that better picture unless I'm about doing the next right thing in each one of those pillars.
Yeah, no, that's solid. That is solid. I mean, what I just took away from that ambitious vet, I'm hoping you're taking notes or taking mental notes if you're driving right now, is, you know, you got to get over there with other people. And what I loved is the thing that you
Definitely.
ended a sentence on is having reasonable expectations of people.
Definitely.
There's so much wisdom there, man.
Yeah, I know I need it. I mean, really, it's true. I think it's true, right?
Yeah.
If you have higher expectations of yourself than you have of others, usually there's not that delta that you encounter, right? So if you just focus on your own ways more than the ways of others, usually it turns out better.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. And you're working your ways, like they just be adaptive, ambitious vet, with your work and your ways. And just, man, my wife tells me that every single day, Chris, be more adaptive with your work and ways. She just says it in her way. She says it in her way.
Right. In code, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that if you think about that, isn't it true that you've met someone that might be crushing their work, but their ways need a little help? Or you meet somebody whose ways are fit for a situation, but they can improve their performance, you know? And so in some sense, all our life is that making those stronger. And like I say, I think the way you do that is across the whole part that makes you physically, mentally, all your relationships count, and you do the best you can with all of them, right? And then in the spiritual, it's the core of you, you know, and it's what makes you powerful. And so to the degree that you do something, whether it's every day, every week, that strengthens you there, whether it's 5 minutes, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, that's your battle rhythm. And to the degree that you hold on to that, that is your friend.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, man. So much stuff that you, golden grenades is what we call it inside this show. But man,
I like your golden grenade. I'm listening for the golden grenade in the episodes now. I like it.
Well, there was a grenade launcher. There was a grenade
I heard that
happened here. So wow, man, I needed to hear this. I needed to hear these golden grenades today. So brother, I really appreciate that. You know, I want to kind of get to a wrapping up point here though, PJ, and obviously thank you for your time, but what would be like a call to action, a next step for an ambitious vet that's listening to this show right now? Where do you want them to go learn more about you and your guys' work that you guys are up to now?
Oh, thanks so much. First of all, Chris, it's an honor to meet you, to find someone doing something so meaningful and purposeful that's helping other people, me, other vets, other people, and just bringing people together to get through life stronger and better. That is the thing I heard through all your podcasts, was that you're about helping people thrive. What a good mission. So first of all, thank you. Thanks for what you've done. Thanks for your service, and thanks for making all this happen. And I look forward to watching you and following you and seeing where this grows, because you're not done yet. So to you, ambitious vet, I am psyched to see where you take all this. I think one thing I just want to encourage everybody who's listening is, where I serve, we have a bunch of Americans who are devoted to the positional advantage of the United States in this decade. So we are thinking about the future of geopolitics. That is things like China, Russia, and Iran getting closer and closer. We are thinking about the future of authoritarianism growing in the world, not declining in the world, and then unleashing itself on an innocent nation obeying Westphalian norms like Ukraine. And we are about the future of strategic technologies that are going to pervade most of society, just the way digital things did. We see AI being the next thing that's going to do that. And right around the corner, not far from there, biotechnology in a lot of positive ways is going to just change the world. So these are 3 futures that are on the line this decade. And so vets, what I just want to let you know is there's a bunch of Americans that have been called together by our leader, Ili Bayraktari, his brother Ilber that I mentioned earlier. They've come here they're here to pay back. They're here because they believe in the project, the American project. And they're here making the American project continue to go in their own ways. And Eric Schmidt, who has funded us, he does not have to do what he does. If anybody's familiar with him, he's former CEO of Google from 01 to 11. As soon as he had resources, he began to give them away. And so that's who funded us outright. And so just want to let vets know that there are Americans like him, like Ili Ilber, like Ariana on my wing here, who I call my bodyguard, that we have assembled here to devote ourselves in a completely nonpartisan way to the strength of the country. And so to the degree that I think we all get after ourselves too, we make the country stronger too. So I think that's kind of the call to action, right? If we are about being stronger, the country's going to be stronger. If we are about equality and unity and bringing the country together, then the country's going to be stronger, right? I remember General Krulak said once to an interviewer when the Crucible was added to Marine Corps training, he said very kindly, do you debate that I create some of the better citizens in the country? And the interviewer said, no, I agree. You create some of the best. He said, then you shouldn't question the means by which I make them. So he was basically saying that, our vets are a core part of this country. And to the degree that we stay strong is to the degree that this country will stay strong so that we can keep being what our country needs us to be. So I think that the only thing I would leave as a call to action is just to think that each one of these pillars has something you can do every day to get stronger. And to the degree you start simple and just ask, what is it in the physical pillar I can do? The mental, what is it in my relationships? The one thing I can do. It could be a routine thing, or it could be making something right, whatever it is. And what is the thing that makes me me, the core of me, my true north, that I need to do every day to touch so that I become more me? And if you just find that one thing in each one of those pillars and make that a battle rhythm event, you will get stronger. And so that's the way I think you do it, right? You just think really simply, what is the one thing I can do in each one of those? Make it something I decide, make a decision to do it, as simple as it is. So it doesn't have to be hard or overwhelming mentally. And then you will get stronger. And so Chris, it's just a total privilege to be with you, to have met you before this, through this, and I look forward again to watching your rise.
PJ, thanks so much. I mean, just your wisdom, just over the past, 35, 40 minutes is probably, accelerated my mental clarity on how I can get down to what my true north, my battle rhythms could better be, so I could be a better husband, better father, better leader of a startup organization. So Ambitious Vet, any golden grenade that you just heard that hit you and you're kind of left with oh man, that pushed me back a little bit. That's the thing to step back and reflect on, because I know that's what I'm going to be doing. PJ, Dr. PJ Maykish, just thank you so much for your time. It's an absolute honor, man. And, I send nothing but good vibes and forward progress with your important work that could help this country move in the right direction and help us have modernized warfighting strategies and tactics, to fight, some other potentially conflicting countries. So I appreciate you joining the show.
Absolutely, Chris. Thank you so much, brother. Great to be connected. Again, thanks for what you're doing. And to everybody who's listening out there, stay strong. I'm glad we're all in it together. And thanks so much for your support. Really appreciate it, Chris.
The Ambitious Vet is available on all popular podcast platforms. Go to vettrainingcoaching.com to subscribe, rate, and share with fellow vets.
Ambitious Vet, before you go ahead and sign off for the day, one of the biggest problems I see with ambitious vets that get out is, one, you're a deer in headlights, probably like I was back in 2012 as a enlisted guy getting out of the Marine Corps. But second is you get out with those deer in headlights look with big ambitions, but you have no idea how big of human capital gaps that you have in achieving your post-military life ambitions. So to help narrow that curve, that learning curve, that took me 5 years to understand. And I tried to work myself to death, literally, to try to, fill those gaps. But this will give you mental clarity to work smarter versus harder. Is go check out our website, ambitiousfednetwork.com. There, if you subscribe to our email list, there will be a pop-up that says subscribe. Put your name in there and then your email. You're going to get a free PDF download of our Ambitious Vet goal setting framework. There, you're going to be able to think not just from a SMART goal standpoint. That's just step one. Where do you go from when you set a goal, measurable, specific, all that shit, to thinking all the way through and understanding clearly what your human capital gaps are, so you can think through how to potentially outsource it. What are the resources? What are team members, fire team members you need to enroll in and communicate to build around some of these ambitions, right? That's where the rubber hits the road. That's where you actually get those SMART, quote unquote, goals done. Nothing against SMART goals. Serves a purpose. That's just step one. People that are just learning to set goals learn that. But for us military, we catch on to things pretty quickly. So make sure you go download this PDF, think it all the way through so you can hit that target downrange in 2023 and beyond.